You know, electric planes have been this dream for, like, over a century. But despite some pretty incredible progress, they haven't exactly taken over the skies, have they? So, what's keeping them grounded? Okay, let's get into it and explore the challenges, the super clever solutions, and what the future of electric aviation actually looks like.
I want you to just imagine this for a second. You hop on a flight, and it costs you about as much as a movie ticket, maybe 25 bucks. You live near an airport that's whisper quiet, and your whole trip doesn't leave a single carbon footprint. Now, this isn't science fiction. This is the big promise of electric aviation, and it's the goal that has engineers and innovators racing to build the future.
So to really get where we're going with this, we've got to understand the motivation behind this dream. It's a vision that's been around for a long, long time, but let me tell you, it's more urgent right now than it has ever been.
And here's why. Just take a look at these numbers, because they really show the scale of the problem. Back in 2019, the aviation industry pumped out about 1 billion tons of CO2. Now, 2.5% of global emissions might not sound like a huge number at first, but look at that comparison. That's pretty much the same amount as the entire continent of South America. That's the environmental weight we're trying to lift here.
And as aerospace entrepreneur Kevin Narker puts it, this isn't just some nice-to-have idea. No, it's a flat-out necessity. Electrification is really seen as one of the best paths forward to completely change the impact of how we fly.
Okay, so if the motivation is so strong, what's the holdup? Why aren't we all flying electric already? Well, it really boils down to two massive, interconnected challenges that have kept this electric dream just out of reach for decades.
And hurdle number one is the heart of the machine itself, the battery. To put it simply, today's batteries just don't pack enough punch for their weight to make electric flight practical for anything but the shortest trips. And to get why, we need to talk about one key concept.
And that concept is called specific energy. You can just think of it as energy density. It's the all-important number that tells you how much power you can cram into a battery of a certain weight. The higher that number, the more power you get, and the farther you can fly for every single kilogram you have to haul up into the air.
And this chart, wow. It shows the absolutely staggering gap we're up against. Our very best batteries today, they top out at around 250 watt-hours per kilogram. But for electric planes to really work for regional travel, engineers say we need to get up to around 800. And then you look at jet fuel. It's not even on the same planet. It's at 12,000. That is the mountain we have to climb.
This is honestly the perfect way to think about it. The batteries we've got now are clunky and heavy, kind of like those ancient desktop computers that took up your whole desk but had less power than the phone in your pocket. We need that same kind of massive leap in technology.
And this battery problem creates this incredibly frustrating paradox for engineers. It's a vicious loop. See, to fly farther, you need more power. More power means a bigger, heavier battery. But all that extra weight needs even more power just to get it off the ground, which means you need an even heavier battery. You see? It just goes round and round, and it makes designing these things unbelievably hard.
All right, but let's just say you magically solved the battery problem. You still have to face another gigantic hurdle, getting certified to fly. And in the world of aviation, the safety standards are, for a very good reason, the absolute highest in the world.
I mean, as Roe Ganzarski, an expert in this field, puts it, you can't just pull an airplane over to the side of the road. Every single part, especially something totally new like a giant battery pack, has to be proven to be incredibly, ridiculously safe and reliable. And that process is slow, it's expensive, and it can take years.
So with these two huge hurdles, battery physics on one side and government regulation on the other, how is anyone making any progress at all? Well, it's happening through some truly clever engineering workarounds that are tackling these problems head-on. Right now, companies are generally taking one of two paths. The first is retrofitting. That's where you take an old, proven airplane and just swap out its gas engine for an electric one. The other path, which is way more ambitious, is to build a brand new plane from scratch, designing the whole thing around the battery.
And this really lays out the big trade-off. Retrofitting, which is what companies like Harbor Air are doing, is way faster. You're using an airplane body that's already certified, so that makes the process a lot simpler. The downside? You're stuck with the old design's limits. Building from scratch, like what eVTOL is doing with its Alice plane, lets you optimize absolutely everything for the battery's weight and shape. But it's a much, much longer and more complicated road to certification.
This quote from eVTOL's founder just captures that freedom perfectly. Instead of trying to shove a heavy battery into a space made for a fuel tank, they can spread that weight all over the plane, in the wings, under the floor, in the body. It lets them create a much more balanced and efficient design right from the start.
Now you might be thinking, okay, even with all these clever tricks, electric planes still seem limited to pretty short flights. And yeah, you'd be right. But here's the crazy part. That limitation, it isn't a weakness. It's actually their single greatest strength, and it points to a massive, totally overlooked market.
Just look at this. It's kind of a stunning statistic when you see it. Back in 2018, nearly half, almost 50%, of all airline tickets sold in the whole world were for flights that were shorter than 500 miles. Think about that for a second. Almost half of all our flights are these short little hops.
So what does that actually mean? It means we are consistently using the wrong tool for the job. We're flying these huge, gas-guzzling jumbo jets that were designed for cross-country flights on these tiny 50-minute trips. It's like using a sledgehammer to hang a picture frame. It's just incredibly inefficient and wasteful.
And this is where the opportunity gets even bigger. In the US alone, there are more than 11,000 existing FAA-approved runways at all these small regional airports that are barely even used today. The entire infrastructure for a brand new short-haul electric flight network, it's already there, just sitting and waiting to be used again.
And on top of everything else, there's a huge economic reason to do this. Electricity is way cheaper than jet fuel, and electric motors are way simpler, so the operating costs just plummet. A plane like the Alice could save its owners around $800 for every single hour it's in the air. That is how you get to those $25 tickets we were talking about.
So you've got a clear market, you've got the infrastructure already in place, and you have these powerful economic incentives. So what does the road ahead actually look like?
The way the industry sees it is this sort of crawl, walk, run, leap journey. Right now, we're in the crawling and walking phase. That's the small, retrofitted planes and trainers. The running phase is what's next, larger, custom-built regional planes like Alice. And then the big leap, probably a decade or so away. That's going to be eVTOLs. Those are electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicles that could totally change how we get around cities.
So in the end, it really comes down to this. The engineering problems are being solved. The business case is crystal clear. The path through all the regulations is starting to emerge. The technology is basically ready for takeoff. The final, and maybe the biggest, question isn't about physics anymore. It's about finance. Who is going to step up with the billions in investment needed to actually fuel this revolution and get it to its destination?